All right, the is-ought gap. And this is from a page in our textbooks. You can take a look at it on page 31 of A Crisis of Belief, Ethics, and Faith. It's a very interesting beginning point in ethical study, is how to solve this difficulty that Hume points out, right? What's called the is-ought gap. So it's very easy to establish, shall we say, these first two statements, because there is statements, factual statements that can be discovered by a simple observation, right, and a little bit of additional information. So we would have statement one here: person S is starving, person starving, does not have enough food to eat, and will soon perish. Now this is demonstrable. Malnutrition is not that hard to demonstrate. And you say, I'm really hungry, I'm going to feel like I'm going to die, and this continues on for days and days and days. You're maybe getting close. So it's not hard to figure out that someone is in mortal peril, right, from not having enough, right, sustenance. Right. Now person W, person wasting, lives very near to person S and has so much food is rotting and going to waste. Another is statement. It's easy to establish that you've got more meat than you have room in your freezer. Right. Eventually the meat's going to go bad in a few days, so if you don't do something with it, it's going to go to waste. So again, another is factual statement, not hard to establish. Now here is the rub, right, as Hume will point out, is how to get to this should or ought statement, right? Persons with excess food that will rot or waste should, if possible or near proximity, and person W does live near person S, should give or sell, right, this food to another in need, right? And this is an ought statement. And how do you demonstrate oughts? Well, once again, you can do some basic observation, combine that with background beliefs, you can figure something out. But when it comes to obligations, right, where we find these things, they're not things you discover with microscopes or telescopes, right, or litmus tests, right, or computer modeling software. This isn't something like that. An ought statement is of another nature. And when we read right through the text this semester, keep an eye for this, right? You'll see Aristotle, you'll see Kant, you'll see Mill, all try to handle this is-ought gap, and how successful they are. One of the things we're going to take a look at and try to evaluate. At the very end of the semester, I'll make a suggestion about another way to solve the is-ought gap, not solved by the traditional big three thinkers in ethics, Aristotle, Kant, and Mill. Right, outcomes versus intent. Right, this is always a big question in philosophy. Right, do you look at the consequences of an action, or do you look at the intentions behind them? A lot of days you hear a lot of time these days. It's 2016 now, right? About intent. Right, I had pure intention, so it's all okay what I did. Well, intent with some homework, right, can usually yield better results than just saying I'm willing good to other people and then go do whatever you want. Right, so it's necessary, right, says Aristotle. Right, I kind of agree with him. To build in both of these, intent versus outcomes. So Aristotle's going to put both these together, right? Kant's going to focus just on trying to build an ethics out of intent, and Mill will try to build a moral philosophy, an ethical philosophy, out of simply looking at consequences or outcomes. Right? Another way of thinking about this is what's called murder 1, 2, and 3. Right? We have the first kind of murder, right, it's called murder 1 in the statutes, right, cold-blooded murder. This is premeditated murder. You sit around thinking a way to hurt somebody, and you get a chance to do it, and then you take that chance, right? So this is really, right, shall we say, full-blooded intent to kill somebody in cold blood. Right? You're not moved by what's called murder 2, which is that murder out of passion, murder out of emotion. So you have this calculating cold killer, right, and then you'll have somebody that comes home, finds a spouse, right, doing something they shouldn't with somebody else, right, gets all worked up and get angry, and something happens, somebody gets hurt, right? That's called generally hot-blooded murder, right, or murder 2, right? So they're seen as different, right? The cold calculating murder can kill anybody that they put a mind to. Hot-blooded murder, usually it's somebody that's very close to them, right? They usually don't repeat these crimes, right? These kind of things. So they're different kind of murder, right? And then you have the third one, right, which is accidental death. Right, or manslaughter, right, and I think it's called manslaughter, state of Missouri. And this is where you're driving too fast through 5, 10 miles an hour of a speed limit through a neighborhood. A kid jumps out behind a car, you hit the kid has a bad fall, right, bad things happen, the kid's not alive anymore. You're responsible because you were speeding. Right now, it's not like you intended to do this, not like you're murder 1. They really tried, they went out and did this, right? Or that you were angry and wanted to hurt somebody. It's just that you were not paying attention, you were negligent. So, in each of these, right, murder 1, murder 2, murder 3, you have the same consequence, same outcome. You have a dead body. What's different between them is the intention, right? Whether you really, really, really planned it, and or shall we say, right, at another level, right, of criminal activity, right, where it's something that kind of happens, could happen to anybody, lose your temper, and then accidental death seems to be something that could generally happen. Now the Vikings, for instance, right, in their law, not being sophisticated, not having the time for complex, right, legal decisions, would just simply look at outcomes. If you killed somebody, you had to pay the Wehrgeld, the man price, or you got outlawed, this kind of stuff were the consequences. In that culture, they simply looked at the outcomes, right? Intent is costly. It takes time to establish intent. You have to go through all kinds of matters. If we simply looked at outcomes, right, our criminal justice system might move a lot faster, whether it be more accurate, a whole other question entirely, right? But it is one way to look at these outcomes versus intent. And then you have attempted murder, which is seen to be different. I mean, the intent in attempted murder is the same as, right, shall we say, cold-blooded murder, or murder too, right? You're trying to kill somebody, you're just not very good at it. So there are the consequences, the outcomes are different, even though the intent is the same, and it's judged differently. Whether this should be the case or should not be the case, right, is another question. It's just a good way to think about outcomes versus intent, and on judicial questions and legal questions that we're probably somewhat familiar with insofar as the news impacts our life and you hear about this kind of stuff going on, right?